Hi, this is Ms. Cooper with another Doodle With Me video, and today we're going to be doodling one of my favorite doodles, which I just simply like to call Noodles, but you would maybe call this Squiggles or something else. So, the basic idea behind a noodle is that you are making a little loop in space. So all you do is you figure out what kind of loop shape you want, you double up the line, and don't worry about where they cross in the middle, because what you're going to do is simply erase the space where they cross, and then you can easily double it back over with a marker. Now this was one simple loop, so what I'm really going to show you in here is what you do if you just have a whole pile of noodles that you want to include in your sketchbook or as part of a drawing, or just, in the sides of your notebook during class. So let's move on a little bit farther to something a little more complicated. Let's say you have this kind of wiggly, looping noodle shape, and I'll have mine connect back. What happens when you have all of these extra noodle spaces? Well, I'm going to start with this little one so it doesn't get too tight. What you do is you still double your line back over and just keep tracing right next to it. You don't cross back over, you just kind of keep drawing. Mine gets thicker and thinner in some areas, but that's okay. And now I'm going to use my eraser to alternate which parts I erase. So I'll erase this part here because the noodle is going to go over, and then it's going to go under, and now it's going to go over again, which means I need to erase it right there. Then it goes under, and then it goes over again. So I'm going to erase it again, and then it goes under, and now it goes back over. If you erase too much, you can always just use your pencil to go back in and fix it very easily and just kind of crisp up those lines. And you can always darken it with a marker. Now, if you don't have an eraser, there's another easy solution to this. All you do if you don't have an eraser on hand yet, but you will have one later, is just darken the areas very carefully and you'll be okay. So let's say my line is going over right here, so I'll darken it a little bit, and then I know it goes under. Now I want it to go over again, so I darken it here, and then it goes under again. This way later, when I go back over it with a pencil that does have an eraser, or I go back over it with a marker, I've already clearly marked which parts go over and under. So I'll continue my loop right here. Now the nice thing about making these little loops or noodles is that there's so much you can do with them from here. So perhaps this noodle has an arrow on the end. Now you can have piles of arrows all over your page, or if you're pointing at something on a poster or drawing on a presentation, now your arrow is just that much more fancy when you're presenting. Maybe this noodle is actually attached to somebody's arm. Maybe you are drawing a little cartoon person who happens to just have big, long noodle arms that twist and turn around. So there's a lot you can really do with these noodles. I've seen friends who like to make them into like little electrical cords or put little light bulbs or fixtures at the end. You can turn these into water pipes instead by simply adding some caps on the end or adding little details or writing. There's a whole lot you can do with these noodles. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw a bigger noodle loop, and I'll time lapse it for you in case you'd like to watch me do one. I might also add shading to mine in the time lapse too, since I have time and I'm speeding it up anyway. I'll do something like this where I kind of add a little bit of shading in there, and because it's just a little doodle, I don't work on getting it super smooth, but if you really wanted to spend the extra time, you could pencil in those extra lines and make your shading really smooth. So at this point, I'm going to time lapse it, and you can watch that if you're still interested. If not, thanks for watching here. To start my time lapse, I just made a big wiggly line and connected the two ends. And then after that, I went around and doubled up my line, which was a really relaxing part of this process. After that, I went in with an eraser and just kind of alternated the lines going over and under each other. Now, if you ever mess up and you don't quite get them over and under in a perfect rhythm, maybe perhaps you went over twice and then under 2 times, it doesn't actually matter. I just like to go over and under because that's what makes sense for those really tight loops. And it's just a neat way of doing it and making sure it looks even, but that's always up to you. Sometimes when noodles are in a bowl or shoelaces are kind of unwinding from shoes, they don't necessarily go in those even over-under patterns. I just like my doodles themselves to be fairly even. This other part was relaxing too, where I started tracing, and I didn't initially plan on using an orange Flair pen. I thought I'd use a black Micron pen, but Flair pens are a lot of fun, and I like all the colors, so I doubled over with orange, one of my favorite colors. I then used my pencil eraser to get rid of any other pencil lines that were still lingering there, and then used an orange-colored pencil to match my Flair pen that I used. And I put some shadows in there to make it look like the noodles were kind of all landing on top of each other and twisting in and out in space. I felt like orange would also be a good color because if I'm calling them noodles, I may as well make them kind of those orange and yellow colors. I guess perhaps if they were noodles I was eating for dinner, they'd have a bit of red tomato sauce on them. Either way, I was really happy with the colors, and I just let some of the white areas stay white to show that it popped forward really far in space. So hopefully this is a relaxing doodle that you would like to try. I know I filled many pages in high school with these little noodle doodles. Anyway, thanks for checking out Doodle with me. Have fun.